computer, and we're recording.
All right, awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shankar Sitapati. I'm currently in charge of delivery at SoftClouds LLC, which is a San Diego-based global organization. We specialize in digital transformation and customer experience solutions. Previously, I've held a number of positions in technology leadership and consulting. I'm also on the board here at the AITP, the Association of Technology Professionals of San Diego, and I head up programs, and it's truly an honor today to put together this panel. It's our first panel of 2021. We have a variety of experiences, and I'll obviously introduce everybody that's on the panel here. The objective of today is to look forward to when the pandemic ends, and when we can get back to the office. We can get back to work at the office, at least for us, that are displaced. This will be a new experience. It's been kind of this weird social experiment for the last year or so. It's we're the objective of today is to discuss and understand what might be different when we get back to our offices, different from than what my kids called BC, before COVID. How will our work lives be impacted? And the timing seems to be appropriate also. I don't know if you all saw, but San Diego Unified School District is thinking of reopening schools April 12th. We have a number of companies that have already started posting get back to work dates. Sports have started, school sports have started. So there's a lot of activity that seems to be happening, and we're all hoping that the light's visible at the end of the tunnel. So we're going to spend the next hour or so discussing what we expect to change when we return to the office. And you'll hear some different perspectives out of this panel. So let's go ahead and get started. In terms of introductions, we've got Kevin Luebe here. Kevin Luebe is an experienced CIO, transformational leader, and entrepreneur. Driven by change, his global tenure in manufacturing at Schauenberg Host Technology has provided epic solutions in efficiency, delivery, and automation. He is known worldwide for his ability to deliver solutions. We also have, hey Kevin.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon.
We also have
Pleasure to be here.
Patrick Tinklenberg. Yep, we also have Patrick Tinklenberg. He's the Vice President of Information Technology at Sycuan Casinos, where for the last 8 years, he's been responsible for technology and strategy for the casino, hotel, and golf resort. Previous to this position, Patrick was the IT director for the Barona Band of Mission Indians for 7 years, where he ran the IT operations for all tribal government services, government enterprises, and the Barona Gaming Commission. A veteran of the IT industry for over 20 years, he has worked with companies in transportation, medicine, real estate, government, manufacturing, and retail to align business objectives with technology. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
Sergiy Zubatiy is a senior manager at RealPage Incorporated. Sergiy has been driving technical excellence in public and private companies and academia for over 20 years, and building and managing global cross-functional teams for over 12 years, including 10 years serving as the CTO and COO. At his current role, Sergiy is leading technology management, software engineering, and custom website development at Least Labs, a RealPage company. Thank you for joining us, Sergiy.
Thank you, Shankar. Good to be here.
Great. And we also have Steve Sherrill. He's the co-president of AITP San Diego and is also the IT director of the Composite Sealing and Medical Systems Division of Parker Hannifin. With over 20 years of experience in IT, Steve is best known for driving world-class results through a combination of technology, talent development, and transformational leadership. Steve, thank you for helping put this together and having AITP sponsor this event. And in addition, obviously, thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences at Parker Hannifin.
Thank you, Shankar.
Sure. And we also have Fred Del Rosario. He's the other co-president of AITP. He's got an important role today. So as far as the format for today, we're going to get into some questions with the panel. Now the introductions are over. But we also have a chat that's ongoing that some of you might be able to see. So Fred will be monitoring the chat. And if there are questions that come up from all of you, and we encourage questions and we encourage participation, please let Fred know. He'll keep track of it. He will chime in into the, obviously he knows some of the questions we'll be asking. So if you have some new questions that are coming up, he will bring that up to the panel. And if we, if we're having any audio issues or any of the technology issues, you can reach out to Fred as well. He'll help you with that. Thank you, Fred, for assisting us. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the very first question to the panelists is, what was the one major thing that has changed for you, and what, because of the pandemic situation, and how do you expect that to be impacted when you when we get back to the new normalcy? And I'll give an example. For me, the biggest change has been travel. In my position, where I deal with teams across the globe and I deal with clients across the globe, it's very important to have that touch, especially when you're starting out of the new team, hiring people or having the difficult conversations with a customer. And some of those can be had in a Zoom or a Teams meeting, but that touch has been missing the last year. So while I've not gotten on a plane in a year now, just about, I do expect that once all this stops, that I will be getting back on planes and I will be traveling. I'd expect it to be lesser than before, but eventually I think it's going to go back to where it was. So let's start with you, Kevin. What's been your experience? That one thing that's been different, and do you expect it to remain?
It's been the same as you, Shankar. It's been more of because I do lead technology for a global manufacturing company. We've had to adjust quite a bit with utilizing Teams, GoToMeeting, those sorts of things for what would be considered normal projects for ERP implementations. Face-to-face is critical when implementing solutions like that. So we've had to adjust, forced to adjust to work in that capacity, to be able to implement and train and educate and help grow the organization based on these technologies. So it's been quite an interesting endeavor in that capacity across the globe.
And so you do expect then to go back to that touch when time permits?
I feel that as we were all forced to be in this situation, I mean, us as IT leaders, we've seen the value of this for so long that many CEOs and management and end users didn't really support it that much. So we were all forced to be in these situations. It kind of brought this new perspective to everybody. So I'm not sure that it will ever be the same. As much face-to-face, that'll still be there. Just with this change, I think we've all adapted to being able to be more successful, utilizing technologies for various projects.
Great. Sergey, what about your experience?
Well, I probably come with a bit different perspective, because in software development, managing remote contributors or remote teams is not that unusual. For me, though, it's very interesting because I have not seen any of my teammates yet. So I started with this new role at the end of April of 2020, right at the peak of first wave of COVID. And it's very unusual to manage from home and not to be able to come to the office. In terms of whether it will change or not, I'm actually not sure at this point. Everyone wants to go to the office first, but now it seems that productivity doesn't suffer much. So at least in software development, I see an opportunity for a lot of companies to stay in this fully remote or partially remote mode. We will see.
Excellent. Very interesting. So Patrick, you have a different perspective, I know, because you're in the hospitality industry, and the impact has been somewhat different for you. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think for us, the biggest thing really has been the way we interact with our guests. It has changed completely from how we used to interact. We used to try and pack the casino with as many people as possible, have huge events with lots of participation, a lot of touch with our guests, not in necessarily the normal term of touch, but a lot of contact with our guests, meeting them out on the floor, shaking hands, and all of that had to stop once we reopened back in May. And so now almost all of our interaction, well, very specifically, all of our interaction is touchless, and finding ways to still give somebody a positive experience and an entertaining experience, but not necessarily give them an experience that's got a lot of people, that has a lot of physical interaction, and a lot of new systems that we've had to bring in the last year to support those initiatives, whether it's remote check-in for the hotel, whether it's ticketless events or promotions, distancing for machines and table games. All of those things we had to implement very quickly to support the new environment that we were moving forward in. I expect some of those things to last, specifically around hotel and our restaurant outlets, things like QR codes and that for menus, the keyless check-in or the contactless check-in, the mobile key on your phone. Those things will all probably keep. Even some of the things around our F&B outlets, like instead of having room service with a tray where somebody walks in with a bunch of food, having a drop-off service where we basically package everything up and leave it outside your door and contact you remotely. Some of those things may actually stay going forward, but I think a lot of the other things that we do, some of the larger events, concerts, big group meetings, those things I think will start to come back here, hopefully in the summer or early fall.
Great. And Steve, you're in a manufacturing environment. You mentioned previously that you need people at the factories and so on. How have things been for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Parker's historically been a very decentralized company, and IT was also very decentralized. And we got a new CIO, a great guy, Danu Perel, about 2 years ago. And the first thing he wanted to do was try to drive a one IT mentality. Like, we weren't going to change a bunch of org structure, but we really wanted to function as one team. And we had just started on that journey, and then COVID comes along. And within 30 days, we mobilized and got 25,000 people from the office working seamlessly into their homes. And I think with that, we got a lot of attention of the senior leadership at Parker, all the way up to our CEO. And they saw that we could execute. We could execute very quickly as a single team, especially if we all got together. And I think that elevated our role within the organization. And so people started saying, hey, I can't do this at home, or I can't do that at home, or I want to be in the office a couple of days a week, and I want to be at home on other parts of the week, and especially with manufacturing. So, I think if anything, it kind of gave us that jump start as an IT team to say, yeah, we can do this as one, and kind of accelerate the digital journey. And on the other side was the business takes us seriously and say, hey, we just saw what you guys could do in 30 days. Can you do this? Can you make this available? And what else can we do? So, we're still in a hybrid model with some folks at home and some at the office. But I would say the hardest parts are well behind us, and we're kind of just using this as wind at our sails, to continue on that journey.
Yeah, that's actually awesome that by your speed, you could show business that you could take on some new projects and, some unexpected projects and really execute on that.
Yeah.
Sergiy, let's come back to you, because that's a really great story that you joined a company and you haven't met your team yet. And you could be sitting next to somebody on the bus and you wouldn't even know that they work for you. Has it been difficult in this environment building a culture and really understanding the nuances of your team and your team members? And do you expect that to continue, especially as you mentioned that, you will probably remain in this hybrid model or maybe in this work from home model for quite a bit. How will you promote in your company the whole culture aspect?
Sure. Well, it was different from my prior experience. And prior to COVID, I was a believer that management should be in the office and individual contributors can be anywhere, right? So, and COVID changed my opinion on this quite a bit. And it's not only about managing remote, because that's, as I said, it's not new. We had remote teams working before. It's also understanding emotional impact that COVID brings to has on so many people. Everybody in a position where all family over a sudden in one place, right? And it's the role of the manager, role of the company to build that understanding and culture where that is permitted and make adjustments that are necessary. So we're very supportive of our employees, and moving forward, the official plan is to open offices across the world for RealPage. It will all depend on local guidelines and local requirements. So there are no requirements for California yet. For Texas, the plan is to open in the beginning of June. We already see some people that made changes to their life. They moved from places from Dallas, from San Diego, where our offices are, and they asked for a full remote opportunity. And we're supporting them. They're with their families, they're with their kids. I was really happy to learn that San Diego Unified School District had actually plans to open, because that's a huge prerequisite for a productive workforce and ability for people to come back to the office. If kids will not go to school, it will be almost impossible for all of us to go back to normal, whatever that normal will be. So I'm actually optimistic with how things are going right now.
So, Kevin, how about you? You've also mentioned hybrid when we had our meeting earlier this week. What about you from your company promoting touch and culture?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one for sure. We have, in manufacturing, you have your production staff and you have your front office staff. And in the production area, if somebody is sick or affected with COVID, obviously that could impact the whole production floor, which makes it a great challenge. And it's very difficult to get production staff to work from home because you have to pack, and you have to ship all from the same facility. So it's very difficult. One of the cultural challenges that we had, or internal challenges, was the back office. If somebody was impacted by COVID, we, along the same lines as Stephen, were able to execute working from home rather quickly in this crazy world when all this started to happen. But it created some challenges there. So we had to adapt and overcome by the back office staff working with the production crew via VPN or Teams or something in that matter, and just find that groove so that we could produce our product and get it out the door. So it's just been an interesting challenge walking and navigating through that process as an organization.
Right. So you mentioned there was even some friction, especially because in the past, people coming into the office, some people had to be in the office, whereas others were showing up to the office, and there was some friction because there may be some exposure, right? Obviously, that's going to change with all the vaccinations and everything else. At that point, will the folks that are in the office, that are forced to be in the office, welcome others in? Or will that be considered more of a nuisance? Hey, let me just do my job. Don't come bother me. I'm getting it done. I don't need to do water cooler talk with you right now.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be to that extent, but I do feel like there will be some challenges as everybody gets back to their new normal, or whatever the normal may be. Just because we've been in this situation for quite some time now. So as we continue to learn and grow, it's just going to be one of those natural progressions that we have to go through as a company, or as a society, as a culture.
Yep. Anybody else have anything else to add on that topic before I switch to the next topic?
No, I would just add, go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, I was just going to say, the one thing I'd love to add to the whole onboarding discussion is for us, we bring on, 200 or 300 people at a time. And we have a very involved onboarding process because we're a highly regulated environment. There's a lot of things that people are required to test on or get certified on before they come on board. And so that used to be an all in-person function. That was a 3 or a 4 day on-site in front of a trainer or multiple trainers event. And we had to convert all of that to online or distance learning as part of our onboarding function. And I imagine that that's something, first of all, that's something that we will keep. We will never do in-person onboarding the way we used to. But I would imagine that that's something that a lot of organizations are going through and trying to find that learning management system or that training system that can support that new function. I'm sure is been a challenge for a lot of folks.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, kind of back again with that manufacturing environment, which is always a unique space, because you do have folks that use a computer every day for their work, and then you have others that are making product and shipping product. And we all of our workers were very proud to be essential workers. They wore that badge with honor, and we're happy to be able to still gainfully work. And Parker actually gave them a raise, a temporary raise for that essential worker role. And I thought that was really great that they stepped up and gave them that incentive. And then as the workforce that was home started to come back, they were actually concerned that we hadn't been safe and they had all been safe to keep their units making product safe. And so we had to sort of build that trust as some folks started to come back into the office. It'll be interesting to see as we all start to come back in, and if there are people that retain some remote work ability while others don't have that ability. That'll be, from a culture perspective, definitely interesting.
Okay. So Patrick, you've already mentioned a couple of changes you've had to make, whether it's from the tools standpoint or the training. What kind of, it's a two-part question, and I'm going to ask the others this too. What kind of tools and analytics have you had to build, or are you looking at building, which says that, hey, we were forced to do this because we were forced, this is what the circumstances were. But now that we've done this, let's truly measure the effectiveness of it so that we can understand whether we should carry this on after, we go back to the new normal. So that's question number one. Question number two is, from a budgeting standpoint, because these are all projects, right? There's costs associated with them. There's, we're all in the business where we're looking at budgets. How has the budgeting process changed, and how will it continue to change as we evolve to address these kinds of nuances?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think from a tool standpoint, casinos typically are very analytics driven to begin with. Everything we do is based off of customer data that we collect. And so from that standpoint, we're always looking at data. I would have to say though, that as an industry, we're not as great at it as people think we are. But we are working on it. The one area that we've actually been able to staff up on since we reopened back in May of last year, I've actually added 3 people to our data analytics team in the last 8-9 months. We are doing a lot of analytics around the changing demographics of our customer base since we reopened after shutting down and during the pandemic. There's been a lot of changes in terms of customer behavior and patterns, the types of games they play, the types of activities they like to do. And so that's been really, really interesting, and changing and looking at those demographics and understanding, how that might lead towards other opportunities, both in gaming and leisure and hospitality. I think has been huge for us. It's funny that it took something like this to mix things up so much that we were able to really look at a new customer base, which really was hard to do, especially in San Diego. There's so many casinos in San Diego County, it's ridiculous. And so everybody kind of had their casino and the patterns of where they went, and so this has really changed things up, and so we're spending a lot on analytics and doing a lot around that. In terms of budget, in IT, I always do budgeting based on casino strategies and priorities. And so what we do is we actually sit down and match up our IT budget specifically to business priorities. And so from our standpoint, I have zero problem getting budgets through and getting the money that I need, because everything's tied to a business priority, and everything's got a ROI or an ROO attached to it, and so from that standpoint, it's fairly straightforward. And so when I sit down and I talk about, here's some safety initiatives, here's some security initiatives, here are some customer acquisition initiatives. Those are not IT initiatives. Those are business initiatives. They just have an IT component, and that's how we do all of our budgeting.
Okay. Sergey, I know that being in the real estate industry, you've had to put in some tools as well, and I'd imagine there was some budgeting that was needed for that. Can you talk a little bit about what those tools are, what those innovative tools are, and what you had to do to get them up and running, and where you are at right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Majority of our clients are in multi-tenant real estate. So those are property management companies that manage apartment complexes, student housing, military, government. You can imagine that pandemic was a great stress for and big change for all of them. When someone wants to rent an apartment and there is a stay-at-home order and you cannot interact with your customer, that could bring your business down pretty much. But like with any change, there is an opportunity for new products and services, and Zoom is a great example. Advancement in Teams is a great example. And what RealPage done, we came up with several new products to help our clients get more customers. Like we introduced virtual tours for apartment complexes where you can pretty much preview your new place without leaving your home. It could be a guided tour with an operator on the line. It could be a self-guided tour where you have 3D panoramic images and videos available for you to go and around. And it will bring you all the way to sign in your lease application. Or if you really want to, you can schedule a self-guided tour of the place and come and visit on your own terms. So we're, like any company, we need to be nimble. We need to adapt to market changes and help our customers.
Sounds good. Kevin, you want to add anything to that? And in particular, you know, if you're budgeting, you know, especially long-term budgeting, right? You know, we all have yearly budgets, but we may have strategic projects that we're looking at, 2-year, 3-year projects. If there's been any change to it because of this, or, you know, have you had to close certain capital projects because of the uncertainty?
Yeah, we've had to really rethink our budgets this year due to, as I was mentioning previously, and working remotely and understanding how we adapt to various projects, ERP, for example. Looking at that and determining the best course of action for moving forward is that, as Patrick was mentioning, a priority, business priority to the organization, and aligning budget to that. We've had to rethink our whole strategy over the past year for ensuring what was going to bring the biggest ROI for the organization. So it's been an interesting thought process.
So is it fair to say then that some of these capital projects, these strategic projects, until we understand what the new normal is, which is going to dictate what the business priorities are, some of these projects are probably going to be in limbo until then, aren't they?
Most definitely. We have quite a few projects on deck right now, waiting to see where they fit in the queue as far as priority goes, and where that budget's going to come from. Yeah.
Okay. Steve, I'm going to change this question up on you a little bit. You are co-president of a nonprofit, AITP. Obviously, you know, we know that we used to do a lot of, most of our events in person. It's been a huge impact to us. So talk a little bit from that perspective of running a nonprofit and what that impact has been. And more importantly, what are we going to do as an organization, not just for 2021, but looking to 2022, 2023, which by then I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be back to normal. What are we going to do? What have we learned that we're going to apply moving forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, and honestly, AITP struggled to transition and become a digital organization. We're really, really good at hosting in-person events where you would learn, meet new people, network. And it was kind of just a really nice blend. And the board members had great relationships all over the county and really, in Southern California. And then suddenly you can't do in-person events, and it's a very challenging situation. I was also new to the board, and Fred, the other co-president, was new to the board. But just really through grit and perseverance. I mean, the board never gave up. Everyone kept, month after month, we'd meet, we'd talk about what are the milestones, what are we moving forward, and not through formal surveys, but really just reaching out to our network, trying to understand, is there demand? Because everyone's getting Zoom requests and webinar requests, throughout the day. Like, do we want to be just another player out there? Like, what kind of value can we add? And really just do that. I think that continuous improvement and moving things forward, we were able to get to the point that we are now. And this is the first of many events, I think, to come in 2021. For right now, they're going to be virtual events. And, I think the board has gone through a learning process where we're all more comfortable with what is, hosting and being a digital organization look like. We have digital platforms, in the back end and reach with our consumer, or, our not consumers, but really our members. And then also just the ability to host things like this. We've got a great event coming up next month. It's the Women in STEM. We've got panelists, a person from Parker, from San Diego organizations. It's really, really great event coming up. But what my hope is that as we get vaccinated and things start to stabilize, that we keep this as a competency and that we're able to, our goal is really to provide value to not just San Diego members, but, AITP members and the broader IT community. So if we can do that through a combination of digital and in-person events, I think we're actually going to come back even stronger. If things go as we're hoping, as we've talked in our board meetings, we're hoping to have like a summer social if it's safe for everyone. Last thing we want to do is put anybody at risk. Golf tournaments, things like that, and be one of the first IT organizations to be able to bring back that community in person and start to get together, but still do digital events, right? And there's times where we can't make an in-person event, or we just want to do a learning session or have a discussion and maybe want to, continue on that trend. I really want to make a pitch too. We've got a membership deal going on right now. It's half off if you want to renew for the rest of the year or join. The code is 2021 is better. And then we also have these really cool AITP branded masks that will ship you if you join. So I don't know, that's kind of neat. But we're just trying to be creative, and we want to add value to the community and have fun while we're doing it. So, you're welcome to reach out to me, Fred, post something on our LinkedIn page. Yeah, that's kind of what I see for the rest of the year and going into next year.
Awesome.
Just
so I think
jump on that real quick.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think that's an important point is the idea that people are developing new competencies and then keeping them going forward. I know that for us, we used to host a lot of big in-person meetings and for the last 6 months, for the few meetings we've had, they've been these hybrid events and hybrid meetings where part of the group is offsite and part of the group is onsite, and we expect to be able to do that going forward. And I think a lot of organizations are expecting that they'll be able to invest in some new competencies, or at least changing the way they deliver their competencies and then keeping that going forward.
Totally agree.
Awesome. Yep. So competency, at the end of the day, what's going to dictate what the new normal is productivity. So let's talk a little bit about that. Productivity of our specific teams and what we have learned over this last year, over this social experiment. So Sergiy, you already mentioned that your thinking changed, and you could see us in a pretty much in a hybrid environment, have people work from wherever they want. In general, would you say your productivity is higher, lower, or the same as it was? And how have you changed how you measure productivity, which you'll carry forward for your teams?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think I'm in a very different position because of the software development and not IT management. And in software, it was a long norm for a team to be distributed worldwide and collaborate using tools that are, whether it's project management tools or source code management. So we actually have not noticed any change in the productivity, and we did not need to change much how we work. If anything, having everyone remote kind of leveled the field for team meetings and stand-ups where everyone has to be online. Yeah, we had to make some changes where ask people to turn on their cameras, find ways for teams to socialize outside of the office environment. But overall, we did not notice any drop in the productivity, and I don't think we will need to make any drastic changes moving forward.
Excellent. Patrick, how about you? You've had to retool your team. You mentioned that you had to bring in some new skill sets because of what changes have happened. Have you noticed an upward or downward tick in your team productivity? And what do you anticipate changing as you move into the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think in terms of overall productivity, I would say that we're managing fairly well. Our team actually is kind of in a hybrid work mode. We have half the team on site, and then the other half working remote, and then they swap. So we have groups who work Monday, Wednesday, Friday one week, and then Tuesday, Thursday the next. So they are on site for some of the work that they do. But in terms of overall productivity, I would say that the great part is that we've been able to show the rest of the organization that IT can run very well in this mode, and that's been great. One of the challenges for us, especially early on, and I'm sure that everyone can relate to this, is the speed at which we had to move in terms of when we shut down the casino and had everybody working. The people who were still working were working remotely, and going from having an environment where almost everyone was required to be on site to now having an environment where the couple hundred people that were working were all remote. And so deploying 100, 150, 200 laptops, securely setting up all of the remote VPN connections, that whole process was a huge challenge for us, and doing it in a structured, secure, consistent way, so that we didn't leave any gaps going forward. Again, the last thing you want to do is have an unknown device connecting to a casino environment remotely. It can cause some serious problems, and so that was big for us. And so we spent a little bit more time and a little bit more money on security and our security team as well.
Awesome. Kevin, any thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, so early on, we looked at outsourcing a lot of the implementation for VPN, for setting a standard for home users, to be able to standardize that process and utilize the resources that we had available to kind of help expedite and provide that quick service to end users at home. And realize that long-term strategy, that was a much better solution, so that I could focus on my internal team as more of a ambassador to that support level, so that that productivity from any one of the end users would not go down, and they would have the tools that they needed for success. So it sort of set our long-term strategy in having our local team more of an ambassador, and just ensuring that our end users have what they need for success to service our customers, and then outsource what was needed for ensuring that that quick access and that quick response was necessary. So it seemed to work out well and continue to work. And that'll be my long-term strategy moving forward.
Yeah, so is that going to necessitate, some partnerships, because you have distributed teams, and, will that change the strategy of how you have these partnerships with the vendors, especially when it comes to, refreshes or just white glove service of folks' technology equipment?
Yeah, so the internal processes were pretty concrete. It was just a matter of resources and availability, and understanding who was going to be responsible for what was a great challenge for us. Transitioning that over to partners, whether it's in the US, Canada, China, Europe, wherever it may be, just having those solid processes in place really did make it an easy transition for those partners that we chose in the specific demographic.
Nice, nice. I'm actually going to transition. Fred, any questions yet? Because I'm going to transition to oh, we got a question.
Yeah,
go ahead, Fred.
we actually have two questions. This is to all panelists. Have you done end user personal development to support different types of use models for remote working? And secondly, are you using any digital experience monitoring tools such as Lakeside to monitor the end user productivity?
Anybody want to take either of those questions?
We have not done either of those, although to be quite frank, if any of our end users are having a bad experience, we know about it really quick. So, and I think the other challenge we're having is because we've sent so many people to work remote, we don't have a lot of control over that environment. And so we've got some people who are running across, cable connections, and some people who are running on fiber connections, and some people who are running on, wireless connections. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge. And we have a very broad application environment. And so developing those personas where we can say, kind of like those virtual desktop environments, we haven't really been able to do that just because there's so many people using so many different tools that one person is fairly unique from another person in terms of the tools that they use. I would love to be able to do something like that, but we have not been able to do that yet.
Okay. This is a question I was expecting to come up. Questions come up on some of the security vulnerabilities. And I'm anticipating that all of us would have had to step up for this. So let's go to somebody else than Patrick, because I know, Patrick, you already talked about the security vulnerabilities at the casino and how important that is. So maybe Kevin or Sergey, if you want to talk about this one.
Sure, this is absolutely a concern for us. I mean, with this work from home initiative, there's a lot more people at home. So there's a lot more security threats and challenges in 2020, just with the uneasiness and people being near computers and everything. So we've had to revamp our whole security structure across the globe, including, upgrading firewalls, implementing newer IPSs, IDSs, adding in more secure VPN structure and policies, and implementing MFA with the VPN. So we've had to continue with the penetration tests and understanding where vulnerabilities are, and working with our end users on educating them of, if they have their own device at home or a corporate issued device, the differences there and the challenges. So we've had to rethink our whole communication plan to ensure that that security is in place, and so far been very effective.
It's
Awesome.
Not much different for us as well. And in addition to hardware and software security, company invested a lot in education, and we send a lot of materials and videos to our employees, and phishing emails, and anything that we can to raise awareness of remote work and additional vulnerabilities that come with it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for those questions. I'm actually going to transition to a speed round. In the speed round, the panelists will have basically shoot from the hip, give a very quick answer, and I'll throw out a few questions there. So Zoom versus Teams. Sergey.
Teams and Zoom. We use both.
Okay.
Well,
no. The question is, which one do you prefer?
I prefer Zoom. I like how they handle
Okay.
video in the gallery.
Patrick?
Teams, because it ties into a lot more of the systems that we run internally.
Stephen?
I would have said Zoom up until just recently. More and more the functionality in Teams is just, it's really nice.
Kevin, and Kevin, you can choose
yeah.
a third version as well.
Yeah, GoToMeeting just for fun. If it was 6 months ago, I would have said no to Teams, but I feel like with the integration to the platforms that we use and the increased functionality and updates on it, for sure, Teams.
Okay. Your first business trip will be scheduled when, Kevin?
Next week. We were fortunate enough to open up a manufacturing facility in Las Vegas during this time. So we have a lot of transition there and a lot of good things happening. So next week.
Patrick?
Probably.
Actually, it already happened for you, didn't it?
Well,
Because I think you traveled to Chicago just last month. Yeah.
I did. The next one really is going to be a trip. Actually, we're looking at some systems that are being currently deployed in Vegas, and so we're gonna head out there at the end of March.
Sergey?
No plans yet.
No plans yet. And Stephen?
Yeah, no plans yet. I would suspect probably around the fall timeframe, would be something I'd expect.
Okay. Anybody have any international trips that are planned?
That'll probably actually be my first trip. I've got
Okay.
2 big facilities in Mexico, right in Tijuana. So I haven't been there in a year, and I would go a few times a month. So that's probably going to be my first international and regular trip.
Okay. Where's the next Silicon Valley? Kevin?
Virtual.
Mhm.
Virtual. Okay. Patrick?
Good. That's a great question. I think it's probably going to still stay Silicon Valley for a while.
Okay. Sergey?
I would agree with that. I think Silicon Valley will stay where it is for now.
All right. And Stephen?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I just think there's going to be a lot more spokes, people working from all over the place, driving up house prices, but the hubs would still be there.
Yeah, I think on that question, I'll chime in, and I think it'll actually be somewhere international. We just don't know where yet, but there's a possibility that something international could happen. The last question is the traditional office environment as we knew it dead? Stephen?
I would say not even close. I mean, Parker has always been, for us, an in-person. You work in the office. It's just where everyone is. And I think we've proven that you can be very effective and productive remotely. But we're also spending a lot of the social capital we built up through those in-person relationships, right? Like being in close proximity. And I know some of the people that we've onboarded through the pandemic, they don't know a lot of folks. What I'd predict is kind of a hybrid model where, if you're not feeling well and you're not sure that you're sick, maybe you just decide to work at home. Or your kid is sick, you are fully productive at the office. Or, maybe a couple of days a week you're working remotely. I really think that there's value to being next to the people that you're working with sometimes. And my guess is that people will pick a hybrid model.
All right. Speed round, though.
Kevin.
I feel like it's dependent upon industry, and also I think as end user productivity tools increase and more solutions are out there, we're going to see just differences in different areas. So it's just going to take some time to understand what that real world scenario is going to look like at this point.
Patrick?
I think the office environment is probably going to be significantly changed permanently. I think from the hospitality standpoint, though, I think that's going to be. I think you're going to see a big bump in people wanting to get back out and do things. I heard this great term today called revenge travel. That was just amazing, but kind of sums up how people are feeling about this. And I thought that was great. I hope we see that. But I think hospitality will go back to where it was. I think the more administrative type of office environment is changed forever.
And Sergey?
I don't think it's that, but it definitely will be different with all the safety measures that we need to put in place. And also with an options to allow temporary space, right? Not a permanent offices or permanent desk, but something that you can reserve when you need it.
Mm.
So I think there will be place for office for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Fred, do you want to take it from here? Just talk a little bit about the upcoming events for AITP, and then we'll wrap from there. Fred, you're not audible.
Can you see my screen?
We can.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Fred.
Yes, some upcoming events I wanted to share with you. First and foremost, March 18th, our Women in STEM panel. AITP is honored, really honored to host these amazing women in STEM. Please come join us and listen to our panelists as they share their experiences and advice and encourage and empower women's representation in STEM. All are invited, and we strongly encourage students to attend. Also, we are partnering with the San Diego Roundtable for their quarterly networking event, and that'll be on March 24th. Events later this year, we do have, we are hoping to host our AITP San Diego networking event. That is still in the works, and we'll share more details as we get closer to the event. In May, we are looking to host a career panel. June, we would love to have an in-person summer networking event. And that'll be in the works. And we'll release more details as we firm things up. In August, we will partner with top tech execs and help them with their event. It's a great event every year. September, we're looking to host a CIO panel, and in November, we're hoping to have, hopefully everything gets back to normal, we can have our annual golf tournament. And there's a lot of other events that are in the works for just busy planning and preparing for that.
Yeah, one thing I'll say on that, Fred, is that we do have other events, including perhaps a site visit to the San Diego Padres and see their IT facilities.
Yep.
And a couple of other speaking events, maybe a mini cloud event, but some of that is obviously contingent upon what happens
Correct.
with the environment and what's going on with the pandemic.
Yep. And then lastly, I just wanted to share that we do have that membership discount, 50% off discount for all new memberships and renewals. The code is 2021 is better, and hopefully it definitely is better than 2020. So we encourage everyone to please join and sign up for membership. And finally, just thank you for attending, and special thanks to our annual sponsor, Next Level Internet.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you to Next Level, thank you to AITP, and especially thank you to the panelists and all of you for attending today. I thought that the perspectives were very interesting, some different perspectives that are brought on board. But obviously, the takeaway for me is that if you have a good process and you already have an IT environment that's built upon ROI, business returns, and you're already doing some of the things that this pandemic has forced us to do in terms of having the right measures for performance, in terms for distributed workforce, then really it's going to continue. Things are going to continue. Some things will change, but the core isn't going to change, and will continue being effective and productive. So again, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to our next panel discussion.
Thank you, Shankar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.